introduce yourself, Rabbi Akiva says to us. Stop the excuses, the white lies. Be empathetic. Put yourself in the other person's shoes. Stephen Covey, in his incredible book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, said in habit number 4, seek first to understand and then be understood. Yeah. Close the mouth, open the ears. It's amazing when you listen to people. They start to like you. And everybody wants to talk. And lastly, there's body intelligence. It's taking care of the machine. Listening to our body, exercise, rest, guide your feelings, self-confidence and energy. So I believe success comes from emotional intelligence, moral intelligence, and body intelligence, not by how you did on the Stanford Binet test. Humble opinion. Method number 1. Who started it? Well, when it comes to entrepreneurship, the name Joseph Alois Schumpeter has to come to mind. Austrian economist, genius. He said, entrepreneurs innovate not just by figuring out how to use inventions, but by introducing new means of production, new products, and new forms of organization. He said that entrepreneurship is taking an activity from low economic value and moving it to high economic value. That's very interesting, very simple, but a very profound definition. This is a book you should read. It's called Profit of Innovation, and it's worth reading. Now, Mr. Schumpeter taught somebody that you should know about, and that's this gentleman. And that, of course, is the beloved Peter Drucker, the father of management, who taught at the Claremont Graduate School. And this is a book that is next to my bed, and you can buy it on eBay for about $5 or on Amazon. And if I were you, I'd get a copy and I'd read it every night. You know, you done good. After that, read this. It's not a bad book. What did Mr. Drucker teach us? He said entrepreneurship is about internal and external opportunities. In the internal, he says, one is called the unexpected. The guy who developed Novocaine, a German scientist, invented it as an anesthetic for major surgery. What happened when they used it? The doctors went, hang on, this is not good. But somebody by accident used it in the mouth. And said, my gosh, I've developed a product. And of course, Novocaine became used worldwide. The doctor who invented it was furious that it never became a great general anesthetic. Instead of celebrating his success, he celebrated what he didn't have. What a shame. The second, Drucker says, is the incongruity. Yeah, the difference between reality as it is and the way it's assumed to be. Sometimes the greatest accidents in the world are an amazing product, which I'll show you in just a sec. The third one is called innovation based on process needs, and the last one is changes in industry structure. These are all internal ways to create entrepreneurship. But as importantly are the external ways. And the external ways, this is my favorite, demographic changes. If you're an entrepreneur and you are not going to www.census.gov, you are missing some of the world's great opportunities, because changes in demographics are one of the reasons why a Los Angeles-based entrepreneur about 10 years ago bought a television station here in LA called Telemundo. And why did he buy it? Because he saw the changes in the demographic patterns in California. He sold it to NBC a year ago for 47 times what he paid for it. He also owns 26 Hispanic radio stations in LA. Nice Jewish boy from the West Side. By looking at demographic trends. Changes in perception and fashion brought about by changes in the economy. My friends, please buy Drucker's book. The things you will find in Drucker's book will assault your brain in such an amazing way. Lastly, changes in awareness caused by new knowledge. That's why people like young Mr. Mark Zuckerberg have a company called Facebook that goes public, because we have new knowledge. Now, they have some problems, but don't count them out. They're having a few hiccups. They'll be around. They'll be around. Everybody now wants to jump on and let's bash Facebook. Okay, you bash him for his $17 billion. I think you'll be fine tomorrow morning. Method number 2. Who learned it? Look at this funny little fella. You know who that is? You don't know. Who's that? That's the same guy just a few years later. You know him, don't you? Of course, this is Richard Branson. There he is at 21 years of age with this newspaper in London that he started with a group of 5 friends for £100 and turned into an astonishing underground newspaper. Let's look at what Mr. Branson taught us. He said, enjoy what you're doing. Here's the way I explain that. Do what you love what you do, but deliver more than you promise. Love what you do what you love, but deliver more than you promise. If you don't love what you do, then as a wise man once said, if you do love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life. But if you hate what you do, then the opposite is also true. He also told us to create something that stands out. Be memorable. Be memorable. He said, create something that everybody who works for you is proud of. It's what Steve Jobs did. People who worked at Apple were proud to work for Apple. He said, be a good leader. Be a good leader. Leaders lead and managers manage. Don't get confused with the two. And lastly, he said, be visible. You got to be visible, my friends. You got to be everywhere. You got to make your network work. You got to attend charity dinners. You got to volunteer your time. You know, one of my students, another photographer, said to me, he doesn't know how to network because, you know, where does he go? So I sent him out to the Jerry Lewis Neuropsychiatric Institute at UCLA, and he offered to be the photographer for the Jerry Lewis telephone. They took him up on it. Now he's got 2 national accounts, because who did he meet at the telephone? Some of the biggest companies in the world. My friends, can I ask you a question? Why do people rob banks?
There's money.
That's where the money is. So that's why I sent him to UCLA. Now he gets it. There are just a few of the companies that Mr. Branson owns. Might surprise you to know that he only has 99 employees in any one company, and there are no C-level executives, mostly managers, because Drucker says great businesses are run and built by managers. C-level executives just get in the way. Mr. Branson took that to heart. Number 3, you got to know why you want to do it. You know, my friends, it's very interesting. Marcel Proust said, the real voyage of discovery consists not in making new landscapes, but in having new eyes. It's a beautiful idea. It's an absolutely beautiful idea. It's the way we look at things that matters. So, I'd like to share with you a statement that I teach my students. If you change the way you look at things, then the things you look at will change. When King Saul was faced with the Philistines, and his generals came and said, there's this big dude, Goliath, and he's huge. We can't fight him. What do you mean he's huge? He's huge, he's a monster, he's too big. This little boy David put up his hand and said, excuse me. He said, could I fight him with my slingshot? The king said, but my general said he's too big, what do you think? He said he's too big to miss. Profoundly different way of looking at something. It's your choice. It's a choice. You've got to make a choice which way you want to go. It's all about which way you want to go. Well, here is a word that I love. It's called a FNAFI. And it's an acronym, because I love acronyms. This one says, find a need and fill it. Who said that? Henry Kaiser in 1954. Yes, Kaiser Steel Corporation built Henry J. Carr. Yes, Kaiser Steel went out of business, but the one thing at Kaiser Steel that was profoundly good was a novel way they had health insurance. And thus today we have Kaiser Permanente from the same man. So, I want to tell you about a Swiss man, Georges de Mestral. He used to walk his sheepdog in Lausanne, Switzerland, and you know what these things are? They're cockleburs. You know, any of you go hiking? They stick to you. It's horrible, and they hurt like heck. And they stuck to his dog, and he used to get ticked off. So one day he looked at it under a microscope and he saw these interesting little hooks. So he said to a friend of his, you know, could you make those in the laboratory? And his friend said he can. And he took a piece of velvet and he kind of put the two together and he came up with this. This is not some horrible disease from UCLA's laboratory. That, my friends, is a simple product that comes from the French word velour and the word to knit, which is crochet, and if you put the two together, we get Velcro. And the rest is what I call cha-ching.
Money.
George de Mestral, 1/7 of a cent on the patent for the last 27 years. What do you think George is doing? Anything he wants. That's an accident. No, it's not. No, this was absolutely purposeful. This was not an accident at all. When I consult, I ask people, what do you do? And what's amazing is that if I asked every one of you, what do you do? My guess is you could tell me. All right, what do you do? I'm a lawyer, I'm an accountant, I'm in business. You can all tell me, yeah? But then if I ask you, how do you do it? About 30% of the people would tell me.